Is West Africa on the brink of a new wave of coups? After all, Niger is the third coup in the region in just 2 years, and with Burkina Faso and Mali already under military rule, it's clear that the region is becoming increasingly unstable. Last week's coup in Niger marked a major crisis, with Burkina Faso and Mali's military regimes issuing a stark warning to anyone who dares retaliate against the coup leaders. They've made it clear that any intervention will be seen as a declaration of war. The situation in West Africa is getting hotter by the minute. Just days after the coup in Niger, regional leaders have threatened to use force to restore the ousted president Mohamed Bazoum. The atmosphere in the region is thick with tension, and it feels like things could explode at any moment. This is no ordinary political crisis. It's a high-stakes drama with the potential to destabilize the entire region. In this video, we'll take a closer look at the hidden costs of war. We'll talk to people who have lost everything to the violence, and we'll show you how the conflict is destroying the Sahel's economy, environment, and culture. The Sahel is a region in Africa that is home to a number of countries, including Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali. It is a dry and impoverished region, and it has been in a state of conflict for many years. The latest coup in Niger, the third in the region in recent months, has brought the region to a breaking point. With the government overthrown, the country is now vulnerable to jihadists and other armed groups. This instability could have a domino effect across Africa, threatening larger countries like Ghana and Nigeria. It could also become a hub for extremism and terrorism outside the continent's borders. The coup in Niger has sparked fears that the region could become a hub for extremism and terrorism. The coup leaders have vowed to fight jihadism, but they have also said that they will not tolerate Western interference. This has raised concerns that the coup could lead to a more repressive and authoritarian government in Niger, which could make the problem of jihadism worse. If you want to know how the situation got worse after the military junta took power, then keep watching the video till the end. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more videos on the hidden consequences from us. The country's democratically elected government was overthrown in a coup on February 1, 2023, and the military junta that took power has refused to step down. The Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, threatened to use force against the junta if the elected government was not back in place by August 6th. The junta has vowed to repeal what they call ECOWAS's plan of aggression, and its military allies in Mali and Burkina Faso have said they would consider any attack on Niger to be an act of war against them as well. The situation is extremely precarious. If ECOWAS does indeed decide to use force against the junta, it could lead to a wider conflict in the region. Mali and Burkina Faso are already in the midst of civil wars, and Niger is on the brink of one itself. The conflict could also spill over into neighboring countries such as Nigeria and Chad. The international community is watching the situation closely. The United States, the European Union, and the United Nations have all condemned the coup and called for the restoration of the elected government. However, it is unclear what they will do if ECOWAS decides to use force. The situation in Niger is a reminder of the fragility of democracy in Africa. The continent has seen a number of coups in recent years, and the trend is worrying. If the international community does not take action and support democracy in Niger, it could lead to a wider conflict in the region and further destabilize Africa. The Sahel is a powder keg, and the coup in Niger is a spark that could ignite a wider conflict in the region. The region is home to a number of factors that make it vulnerable to conflict, including poverty, climate change, and weak governance. The coup in Niger could be the beginning of a new era of instability in the Sahel, with far-reaching consequences for the entire continent. The international community needs to act now to prevent the conflict in the Sahel from getting worse. The ECOWAS intervention is a step in the right direction, but it is not enough. The international community needs to provide more support to the governments of the Sahel, and it needs to work to address the underlying causes of the conflict. The Islamic calamity in Africa is reaching catastrophic proportions. Militants have taken over large swaths of territory in northeastern Nigeria and Somalia, as well as the Sahel. More than 1/10 of the population of Africa south of the Sahara lives in these regions. The number of Africans killed by jihadists in the 12 months ending June was over 22,000, which is more than double the number of people slain in Iraq at the height of the Islamic State in 2014. The coup plotters in Niger claim they would do a better job of combating jihadists, but in Burkina Faso and Mali, the overthrow of elected governments was followed by increases in jihadist violence. Unplanned, brutal crackdowns by illegitimate, distant military rulers cannot solve a problem with such deep roots. Jihadism is both a symptom and a cause of the breakdown of society and the economy of the Sahel. Governments that are corrupt and inept exacerbate these issues by producing predatory bureaucracies and violent armies that fuel jihad by exacerbating sectarian tensions and abusing ethnic minorities. For centuries, European powers colonized the Sahel countries, exploiting their resources and subjugating their people. Post-independence, weak institutions and economies left them vulnerable to external forces like armed groups and terrorists. Since the early 2000s, the French military has been combating Islamist factions in the Sahel. Views on its effectiveness vary. Some see it as helpful, while others believe it worsens the situation. Local skepticism towards France hampers their efforts. People feel France prioritizes resource exploitation over Sahel residents' welfare, causing distrust and minimal cooperation. Seeking aid, some Sahel nations have turned to Wagner, a Russian private military company known for its harsh methods. Controlled by Evgeny Prigozhin, with Kremlin ties, Wagner prioritizes mining wealth over peace, worsening the conflict. Achieving Sahel peace requires global action. Supporting regional governments, investing in development, and addressing conflict roots are crucial. Rebuilding trust between the international community and Sahel residents is vital. Only through collaborative efforts can lasting peace be attained in this troubled region. The international community has been trying for years to rein in the extremism and install stable governments in the Sahel, but with little success. However, the threat that these extremist organizations pose is now global in scope. Ghana and Ivory Coast, two of sub-Saharan Africa's 10 largest economies, are on the coast and vulnerable to insurgents because of their wealth and population density. They could meet up with extremists in Nigeria, the area's largest economy. As the extremist groups expand, the U.S. military's top official in Africa expressed concern earlier this year that the risk of terrorist plots against U.S. citizens, embassies, and ultimately the homeland is likely to rise, and that threats once contained on the continent are transforming into worldwide threats. This is why it is imperative that the international community work together to curb jihadism in Africa. This includes digging into the causes of the problem, such as poverty, climate change, and weak governance. Niger was leading the pack in this fight. Mr. Bazoum, Niger's first democratically elected president, took office in 2021 and immediately set about enhancing the country's infrastructure and public services. Through negotiations, he has attempted to settle local grievances and ethnic problems, and has even convinced some jihadists to give up their weapons in exchange for amnesty. He is open to Western military trainers and counter-terrorism troops. The recent coup in Niger has thrown the fight against jihadism in Africa into disarray. The international community must now decide how to respond to this new threat. One option is to continue funding Niger in the hope that the new junta will eventually be replaced by a democratically elected government. However, this is a risky gamble. The junta has already shown that it is willing to use violence to stay in power, and there is no guarantee that it will ever relinquish control. Another option is to stop funding Niger and instead focus on helping the densely populated countries along the coastal strip. These countries are more likely to be able to resist the spread of jihadism, and they are also more likely to be receptive to Western assistance. This approach would require a holistic approach to countering jihadism. It would involve encouraging these states to improve their rule of law and provide better services to their citizens. It would also involve being willing to provide direct military assistance if governments in the region wanted it. Finally, it would require assembling a wider coalition against jihadism. This coalition could include countries outside of Africa, such as China and Turkey. These countries have a vested interest in Africa's peace and prosperity, and they should be willing to contribute to the fight against jihadism. What does the future hold for the Sahel? The coup in Niger is a wake-up call, and it is time for the world to come together to find a way to bring peace to this troubled region. The people of the Sahel are the ones who are suffering most from this conflict. They are the ones who are being killed, displaced, and impoverished. We have a moral obligation to help them, and we must do everything we can to bring an end to this violence. Thanks for watching. If you are interested in more content about these types of hidden consequences, watch our other videos, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more videos.